Special good morning to those of you listening to Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9 on the FM dial. Good morning, those of you viewing GBN TV, Channel 7, Channel 11, Channel 20. Good morning. Those of you also via social media audiences or platforms, I should say. Blessed Wednesday morning, Tuesday, 17th day of April 2024. And it's the day of the week that we do entertain the departments of government and, of course, the government ministers and so forth to represent on the program this morning. And this morning, we have no other than, of course, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Trade, Export, Development, etc. We have the Honorable Joseph Andall this morning. Mr. Andall, good morning and welcome, sir. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm very, very well, thank you. And I hope that you are too.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Greetings to all of your listeners and viewers.
All right. Well, welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you.
Let's just get it. We already lost 2 minutes into the program already, and there's so much I want to talk to you about this morning. Let's kick the conversation off this morning. The recent trip, yourself being part of the delegation, the Prime Minister, other ministers of government. Tell us about that particular trip to Cuba. Tell us about that a wee bit as we get started this morning.
Yes, so thank you for having me on this morning as your guest. And the recently concluded trip to Cuba was long in the making. The president of Cuba did pay an official visit to Grenada sometime towards the end of 2022, I believe. Yeah. And we owed them a reciprocal visit. And we decided together with them to have the visit coincide with the 45th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Cuba and Grenada. The delegation comprised of the Prime Minister, Minister of Agriculture, Planning, Economic Development, Cooperatives, Honorable Lennox Andrews, Minister of Health, Honorable Philip Telesford, Minister of Education, Senator Honorable David Andrew.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if I'm missing out someone. And we were accompanied by technical officers from the various ministries and other support personnel. Mm-hmm. So the trip was undertaken from Thursday 11th to Sunday 14th April. And in my view, it was an extremely successful trip. Cuba and Grenada have enjoyed extremely warm relations over the years, except for a brief period following the 1983 invasion, and when things hit a bit of a low point, but subsequently the relationship was rekindled. And I think everyone knows of the benefits that Grenada has derived from that arrangement, ranging from the construction of our international airport to the provision of professional and technical people in the areas of engineering, architecture, medicine, education, and a host of other areas. Mm-hmm. So the main achievements of the trip were, I would say, the signing of memoranda of agreements between the two sides, covering a wide spectrum of areas.
Tell us a wee bit about those MOUs that was signed. What are those? Tell us, maybe you could give us a little bit of details of those MOUs. What are the benefits of it to Grenada in terms of MOUs that were signed?
Good. So, if I may start with education, the MOU covers cooperation in the areas of special education. Okay. Cuba has a very advanced system of special education, and I was really happy that we had the opportunity to visit a school for special education named after our former Prime Minister, Maurice Bishop.
All right, great.
And the way they approach special education is that they try as much as possible to provide the children who have deficiencies, whether it be cognitive or otherwise, provide them put them in an environment where they can get specialized and individualized attention that would help them to get to the point where they can be reintegrated into the mainstream school system.
All right.
In situations where they just do not have the capacity to be reintegrated into the mainstream school system, they would try to track them into vocational areas or other areas where their skills and their talent can be expressed.
All right.
And it is not forced on any parent. So they try to engage in early diagnosis. And once the diagnosis is made, with the consent of the parents, then they would decide whether to move them on to special education or leave them in mainstream.
Right.
And we had some really lovely interactions with the children. It was really, really emotional. Yeah. Technical assistance in professional education, collaboration in the teaching and learning of Spanish and English, where we can exchange personnel and best practices. The literacy program, adult literacy program, I think in Spanish it's called Si Puedo, Yes I Can. That is something that we are going to work towards reinstituting, as well as other areas that may not have been specifically delineated in the agreement, but that both sides can agree on.
Okay.
Yep. The agreement is in force for 5 years, and upon mutual agreement can be extended for a further 5, or with sufficient notice it can be terminated or amended as both sides see fit.
All right.
In terms of the environment, climate resilience and so on, an MOU was also signed. Unfortunately, Minister James was otherwise engaged, so I had to fill in to do the signing on her behalf. And it covers areas such as having dialogues on environmental policies, controlling air and water pollution, soil pollution too, using technology for environmental protection measures, looking at environmental impact assessment, environmental monitoring, studies on climate change, risk reduction, and so on. And again, other areas that both sides may mutually agree to in the future.
All right.
One of the major ones, I think, was between the ministries of agriculture of both sides.
All right.
And the agreement covers the exchanging of experiences, training in horticulture and so on, looking at ways of developing or preserving seeds and planting stock that are resistant to diseases and so on. We have to look at using the indigenous seeds and plants to safeguard food and nutrition security. If you notice nowadays, you go to the agricultural stores, and most of the seeds that you buy are imported and genetically modified, and generally cannot reproduce subsequent generations, leaving you extremely dependent on and vulnerable to things that you have no control over from the outside world.
So true.
So it is important that we ensure that we have a proper seed bank and that we maintain our native plant stock. Yeah. Plant pathology, ecological management, production of ornamental flowers. You know that Grenada is one of the leaders internationally. Our exploits at the Chelsea Flower Show
and so forth. Yes,
that's well known. The question of artificial insemination techniques for small and large ruminants and other types of livestock, genetic improvement of livestock, research and development, and a number of other areas. Fisheries is another very important area, and we had the opportunity to tour an aquaculture plant.
Yes.
Where they breed different types of fish. You see where they go from the stage of the eggs to the fingerlings to transferring them to the bigger ponds, and then the harvesting stage of it.
Okay.
So we think that there's a very, very great potential for us to begin to engage in that sort of fish farming that you have greater control over than going out in the open ocean. Yeah?
All right.
Yeah, shrimp production and things of that nature. So all in all, I think it was a very, very important trip.
Listening to some of the MOUs that you have said that, of course, or agreements that we have come up, which do you think is most rewarding? Which one of those you think will be more rewarding for Grenada? I mean, they're all great MOUs. I have listened to it, and I think they have a lot of benefits that could derive for Grenada from it. From your point of view as being a minister, and you say, this is something that would be outstanding for Grenada if it can actually get into fruition. Tell us which one you think would be really, really good.
Yeah,
in all of them that you have spoken about, they all are great. So I'm not sure
it would be a challenge. I won't even hazard a guess because I think that they're all complementary.
Yes.
We all know the importance of education. Every country that has moved forward has done so on the back of education.
Yeah.
We all know the importance of agriculture for the development of human civilizations. It was not until human beings were able to start cultivating wild plants, domesticating animals, that we were able to establish villages and cities and consequently build our respective civilizations. So I don't want to venture into ranking which is more important, right?
Yeah. I was just asking, because there's sometimes there are a lot of MOUs that are signed from time to time in different countries, and you see, this particular one will stand out for some reason. As we said, they all are outstanding.
Okay.
Of course.
So I think that one that can have almost immediate and visible impact would be the one pertaining to agriculture and fisheries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those, if we can only get to implement half of them, can make a qualitative difference in the way that we practice agriculture and in terms of enhancing our prospects for food and nutrition security.
All right. Tell me, of course, Grenada being, having the relationship with Cuba, 45 years since. How is it continuing to grow? How is it continuing to benefit Grenada? Yes, besides the MOUs that were signed, how would you say, as being, Minister of, Foreign Affairs and so forth, how happy are you to see that we are continuing that relationship and the benefit that continue to derive for Grenada from Cuba? We know of the benefit that we are receiving over the years. What would you like to see more about that particular relationship?
Well, first of all, the importance of the relationship, I think it is highlighted by when we take a look at the current perilous international situation. Right in our backyard, Guyana, Venezuela, we look at the internal crisis in Haiti. We see Ukraine, Russia. We see Israel and Palestine, Israel and Iran, Israel and Lebanon. We see a potential flare-up again in the Balkans. And it is... So all of these things, when you have them as a backdrop, it shows you how important it is to cultivate good and friendly relations with not just your neighbors, but with everybody. And it is important that in the Caribbean and Latin American region, we seek to coexist peacefully with each other. We may have differences from time to time, but when you have a good relationship, dialogue will always prevail.
Yes.
And so we think that the relationship between Grenada and Cuba can serve as a model of neighborly cooperation.
All right.
And one area that I did not mention was the question of health.
Yes.
And that is because there are still one or two little outstanding matters to be negotiated between the two technical teams. And soon, I anticipate that we'll be in a position to sign a new MOU on collaboration in healthcare between Cuba and Grenada. And a hallmark of the relationship is that it is based on total respect, mutual respect, and non-interference in each other's domestic politics, domestic affairs, and so on. So it's
great.
One based on solidarity and genuine friendship.
Mr. Andall, we due for a break. We come back. We have much more to discuss. Stay with us, folks. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio GBN TV. We'll be right back after the break. Stay with us.
On Saturday, May 4th, there will be a shift on the island as the biggest grilling fest in Grenada moves to the big parish. The Maggie King of the Grill competition is at Progress Park, St. Andrew. Come taste the most sumptuous creations from the grill as top chefs and food enthusiasts showcase their culinary skills. Maggie King of the Grill is a festival like no other with live soca music, fun attractions, and games for the entire family. Then from 6 p.m., get a chance to win up to $5,000 $100 cash in bingo. Interested vendors and grillers should call 456-3454 to register. It's the Maggie King of the Grill competition at Progress Park St. Andrew. Gates open from 12 noon. Bring your appetite and stay tuned to this station for more details.
Maggie King of the Grill is made possible by Bryden and Miners, Hunt's, the official barbecue sauce of King of the Grill, Rubis. Get Rubis, get going. Independence Agencies, agents for Swiss products, Grenada Paper Product, Grenada Bottling Company Limited, and Waggy Tea Rental and Sounds.
Here we go.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to The Point, Classic Radio, GBN TV. Good morning once again to those of you via our social media platforms. And we say welcome back to Minister, of course, Andall. Once again, welcome back. My next question, as we spoke a lot in our first segment, we spoke a lot about, of course, Grenada's, they recently concluded, visit to Cuba and so forth. Let's just slightly divert the conversation a wee bit. Now, my next question is Grenada moving out of the OECS arrangement in Canada? That's my question, with the honorary consul and fully into a high commission.
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned that, because I need to correct some inaccuracies that I saw in an local online news report purporting to, or talking about that same OECS mission. That mission closed down, I think, sometime around September 2011. Yeah. So that joint representation no longer exists in Ottawa. And in fact, a couple of our OECS and CARICOM neighbors have moved. St. Kitts, I know for sure, to set up their own High Commission in Ottawa. St. Lucia is in the process of doing likewise. And in fact, we have already begun conversation with St. Lucia to explore the possibility of sharing facilities with a view to cutting cost.
All right.
Yep. So that thing came to an end in 2011. So we also had an honorary consul in Montreal, in the person of a gentleman named Mr. Ted Blaze, I believe. Mr. Blaze has since given up that position, and we are without any form of diplomatic representation in Montreal, whether it be at the consul general or honorary consul level. So currently, we only have the Toronto consulate, which is headed by Mr. Jerry Hopkin as the consul general. He was installed sometime last year. And we are in the process of trying to get a high commission set up in Ottawa. Now, there are things that sometimes you do not publicize, not because you want to keep things from people, but because of the sensitivity of diplomatic relations and diplomatic protocol. It is generally not advisable to go announcing that Tom Jones will be my ambassador to, let's say, Timbuktu, because you first have to receive the consent of the receiving state. Yeah. Okay, so I could name you if I wished, but if the country that I wish to post you to does not accept you, I cannot force them to. I cannot impose a diplomatic representative on a receiving country. So that is why we tend to err on the side of not making public announcements until we have confirmation from the receiving state. But sometimes you
would understand the public, misunderstanding of the reason why information like that is not dispersed.
Exactly, right, yeah. And I mean, I've said that before in the past, right? We have, as government, taken a step to reopen a High Commission in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. And there are very good reasons for that. The capital of any country is the nerve center of government. All right. That is where policies emanate from. That is where you have the greatest chances, if you have representation there, of influencing decisions that can redound to the benefit of your country. So it makes sense in every way that you look at it for us to reestablish a presence in Ottawa.
All right. Was Brussels also downgraded?
No. No, we have Ambassador Raphael Joseph serving as our representative to the EU and also to the Kingdom of Belgium.
All right.
And a couple other countries in Europe.
All right. Now, with the establishment of this new High Commission and so forth that you did mention, what's kind of costing maybe if this will be costing the Grenada? I would say, what kind of costing would that be? How much is this particular project of cost? To establish this High Commission?
Okay, so I'm not in a position to give you dollars and cents figures because first of all, you'll have to look at buildings, you'll have to look at personnel, you'll have to look at other costs associated with maintaining a diplomatic mission. But we have to be very careful when we talk about the costs of maintaining a diplomatic mission. There are some things that you have to look beyond the monetary cost and look at the potential benefits of them. So sometimes we have to see some things as an investment. Yeah. We have the question of trying to get visa restrictions that Canada imposed on Grenadians a few years ago, of trying to get that reversed. Having a mission there will go a long way towards helping our lobbying efforts. We have the question of trade. We have the question of providing consular services to our citizens. We have the question, of promoting tourism, investment opportunities, and so on. And when you're in the capital, when you're at the nerve center, then it puts you in a much more strategic position to achieve these goals. So we have to be conscious of the cost and use every measure possible to minimize. That is why we're talking about linking up with St. Lucia and or other OECS countries to share premises to reduce costs. But if we cannot take what the old people would call a penny halfpenny approach towards our diplomatic missions and towards our diplomatic footprint in the rest of the world. All right.
There's been some talk floating around. The name is Sylvester Corliss. It's been floating around as a new High Commissioner. Is that correct? Or if so, why him?
Well, since you must have one, why not him? Okay.
Agreeable, so?
Yes, yeah. And in the appointment of diplomatic representatives, you generally go either the career route, where you get someone from within the foreign service who has background and experience in diplomacy and protocol etiquette and things like that, so negotiating skills. Or you go the political route. And every country has a mix of the career diplomat and the political appointees. Yeah. We have taken the position in this government to promote as much as possible a professional foreign service. We have had several training opportunities. We have had people express their interest in taking up diplomatic positions. And a number of our appointees, whether they be ambassadors or people serving as consulars or first or third secretaries.
Yeah, sure. Take that drip of water there.
Yeah, a number of them have come from those expressions of interest. And in the mix, we have had a couple of political appointees. But our thrust is to form a cadre of professionals, of career diplomats, so that down the road we get to a stage where even if the administration changes, because you're dealing with professionals, then
you maybe need to grab that drink of water again. I understand how it feels sometimes. Folks, it's Classic Radio GBTV. It's to the point with me this morning. We have Minister, of course, Mr. Andall, Joseph Andall with us this morning. Yes, continue on the point you were making. Now, if we would like to, let me just say this again, because I asked a question of Mr. Corliss because on coming into office, the NDC said that when it comes to this type of appointments, it would be based on building new and professional diplomats. If you can remember that.
Yeah.
And they are, of course, if that's the case, why hire persons like Mr. Corliss, as a past retirement age, I would say, and who was the chairman of your party? This is especially when it comes to the state, the appointment would not be based on a political allegiance, if we would say that. If we could answer to that.
Well, I think I just made the point.
You did make the point.
Minute ago, right?
Yeah.
That our goal is the establishment of a professional foreign service, right? Staffed with career diplomats and foreign service officers. But you will always find in the mix to put it bluntly, political appointees. Every country in the world does it.
Right.
Every country without exception.
Yeah.
But what we do not want is to have a diplomatic service dominated by political appointees. So that is why we opened up the process. I can name, for example, our ambassador to the U.S. and the OAS, Ambassador Tally Francis. He came through that process of expressions of interest. Our High Commissioner to the UK, Miss Rashe Crony. I do not know of her political allegiance. She expressed her interest. We did our background checks. We checked out her credentials. She went through the interview process, the training process, and we found that she was the best fit, and so we appointed her. So far, she has been doing an excellent job, and up to now, I do not know what her political allegiance is, but she's a consummate professional.
All right.
Right? Mr. Ian Marshall, our ambassador to China. I do not know whether he's NNP, NDC. I saw a new one coming out, CHZQR or something like that. I don't know. Again, he's doing a marvelous job.
All right.
And that is what we ask of them.
You know, the question was basically asked for, just for clarification purposes.
Yeah.
Because, you know, sometimes you hear these statements and you're fit for clarification, you know?
No, because if you go back to every statement I've made as foreign minister, we have never said that we would not have political appointees. What we say is that we are moving towards the formation, the establishment of a professional cadre.
All right. You know, as we move on this morning, you know, yesterday I heard the Minister of Education in the press conference announce an increase in subvention for the students of Cuba. And can you give them more details on that a bit, if you can?
Right. So, generally, government tries as much as possible to give every kind of support to students on scholarship in foreign countries, and even students on scholarship or students studying at SGU and TAMCC here in Grenada. Cuba is a special case. We all know of the economic and financial blockade that has been imposed on Cuba, and also of the inclusion of Cuba on a list of states that allegedly sponsor terrorism.
Yeah.
Those two measures, particularly the latter one, because Cuba has been living with a blockade for over 60 years. But the one where Cuba has been designated as a state sponsor of terrorism has had a devastating impact on the Cuban tourism industry. What it means in practical terms is that in order for people from certain countries to gain access to the United States, they have to meet certain criteria in their online applications. There is something they call ESTA, E-S-T. I don't remember off the top of my head the meaning of the acronym, but anybody can Google it, right?
Yeah.
And in essence, what it says is that if you have visited a country on that list of so-called state sponsors of terrorism, then it makes it so much more difficult for you to enter the United States. So as a result of that, many people who would otherwise have visited Cuba as tourists do not. So it has had a dramatic impact on the economy. And as a result of that, the prices have gone up. The availability of some items is also an issue. So we thought it prudent, after meeting with our students in Havana, well, in Cuba, but we met with them in Havana.
Yes.
On Saturday, I believe it was, listening to their issues and so on, we thought it prudent to provide some additional material support to them so that they can better face the new challenges brought about by the economic situation.
All right. Because I do have friends who are studying in Cuba, and from time to time in conversation with them, I hear of their plight, you know, and their concerns that they have, they're experiencing, the concern that they're experiencing. Some of them is not the kind of conversation you maybe even want to have on the radio right now, because I know of it for self, you know, which could be better for them. Even though they're happy for the assistance that they are receiving from Cuba and so forth in terms of the indication that they're getting, but sometimes the condition is not really that favorable. You know, and we certainly do understand that.
You know, something, I've had the good fortune of having studied in Cuba and in the USA, both times on full scholarship. And student life is a challenging thing. Student life outside of your home country has particular challenges of its own.
Yeah.
So regardless of which country, you will find there'll be times when you feel like just packing up and coming back home. Right? In the time I spent in Cuba, I never felt that way. I think partly because in the first school I attended, there was a whole big group of us from Chantemelle and St. Patrick in a general sense.
So it's like a little bit of home from home.
Home from home, right?
Yes.
We were able to do our own play our football, play our cricket and so on, cook with oil and crack with jokes and so on. Yeah? When I went to the U.S., it was a bit different. I had one really good friend there from Grenada, but we went to different universities. And there were times when issues came up and you might feel a little depressed and done. I just thinking, you're young, want to go back home. But one thing I can say is that the Cuban authorities are doing all that they can to make life as comfortable as possible for the students. Our embassy, Ambassador Glen, recently he organized a barrel initiative to collect foodstuff and other basic supplies to ship to the students. They're very, very appreciative of that. And we're doing all that we possibly can, and we continue to explore ways to ensure that our students in Cuba and in any other part of the world, for that matter, are as comfortable as possible.
All right.
But the process is one of building character and really helping you to be able to cope with the challenges of life in a general sense.
All right. I have one more question before we take the break, and of course I want to get into your constituency when we do come back from the break. Are there going to be any more changes in the medium or short term in terms of the diplomatic office overseas or so forth? Are there going to be any changes in the long or short term? Are we going to see any changes occurring?
I believe that from time to time, there will be changes. And again, if you look at international best practice, you generally do not keep one person in a post more than in some countries, every 2 years or every 3 years, they rotate their top diplomats, they rotate staff. In some cases, you may have experts that you may have to keep in a particular area for, a longish period.
Yes.
But we also have to concentrate on building capacity so that when the time arises for us to rotate people, we're not floundering around like a headless chicken.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that is why the ongoing training is so important. We have recruited some really good young people into the ministry over the past few months. And so rotation is a normal part of that. You may have people switching posts, or you may have somebody from home going, somebody from abroad coming back.
Right.
And so that's just a normal part of the process.
All right. We do for a break. P, let's take that break. Folks, we'll be right back. Stay with us here on To The Point. Stay with us, folks.
On Saturday.
Maroon and String Band Music Festival 2024, April 26th to the 28th. Coming together to preserve and showcase our culture is who we are. Friday the 26th, Salute at the Chapel. Early morning libation, 3 p.m. Saraka, 7 p.m. the official opening ceremony and cultural evening. Saturday from 10 a.m. Hillsborough Square. It's Strings in the City. Then at 8 p.m. we move to the Botanical Gardens for Cultural Explosion with local and regional performances featuring Touch, the band. Admission $60. Then on Sunday, it's the grand finale, Paradise Beach. From 12 noon, musical entertainment. And from 4 p.m., Paradise Beach Friends, cultural entertainment and live music. Admission $20. Come and learn to dance the quadrille and big drum on Paradise Beach every Sunday after the launch until the festival ends. Jericho Maroon and String Band Music Festival 2024, April 26th to the 28th.
Mark your calendars, football fanatics. The GFA is turning 100 this year, and we're ready to celebrate. It's GFA's Legends Weekend, a 3-day extravaganza, kicking off on Friday, May 3rd, and running all the way till Sunday, May 5th. Witness history in the making. The Caribbean taking on the world in a clash of legendary international footballers on Sunday, May 5th at the electrifying Kirani James Athletic Stadium. Get ready to roar with the crowd as iconic legends like Emmanuel Adebayo Dior, El Haj Diouf, Alex Song, Michael Essien, Luis El Matador Hernandez, Shaka Hislop, Asamoah Gyan, Ricardo Bibi Gardner, Russell Latapi, Shallery Joseph, Jason Roberts, Dexter Daps, and a whole host of superstars light up the pitch. From breathtaking goals to unforgettable memories, GFA's Legends Weekend promises an epic celebration of football you won't want to miss. Keep your eyes peeled on GFA's social media for the full squad reveal. GFA's Legend Weekend. Be there.
It's the 6th annual Masters of Calypso. Sunday, May 12th, Mother's Day at Quarantine Point. Featuring Rootsman Kelly, Sour Serpent, Ajamu, Chaps, Squeezy, and Super Flying Flynn. From Trinidad, Johnny King and Sugar Aloe. From Barbados, The Mighty Gabby and Red Plastic Bag. And just for you mothers, from Jamaica, Eric Donaldson. Early bird tickets $60, $70 after. More at the door. Limited VIP tickets available at $350. Free shuttle service to and from the venue. Showtime, 6 p.m.
In honor of the Grenada 50th Independence, the Royal Grenada Police Force Band.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to the point here, Classic Radio, GBN TV. Welcome back to the MP, Mr. Joseph Andall, with us this morning. Mr. Andall, welcome back. Welcome back, MP Andall. Let's get into the constituency. You know, recently we had that fire within your constituency. We have 17 individuals being and of course being displaced a wee bit by the loss of their homes. Give us an update in terms of what's taking place. How is the family coping and so forth? Tell us a wee bit about that. How is things taking place in terms of getting back the families to a state of normalcy and so forth?
Yeah, that was a very unfortunate occurrence on the 26th of March. And you correctly stated that 17 people were left, well, I don't want to say homeless, but yeah, having their homes totally destroyed by fire. I must say that the response from the community, the people of Chantemelle, and the wider Grenadian community, home and in the diaspora, has been really heartwarming. People from all walks of life have been chipping in with contributions, big and small. We've had corporate citizens making significant contributions to an account that we established at the Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited.
Yes.
I know of one entity that contributed, I think, about $50,000. We know of two other entities that contributed $20,000 each. Other entities have made smaller contributions, but still significant. Individuals walk up to me. I was at Real Value Supermarket a couple of weeks ago, and a lady just said, "Hi, Mr. Andall, this is for the fire victims." You know, she pulled $100 out. All right.
And as small as it is, it still will make a serious impact.
Everything adds up. So people have been, you know, very, very generous. Clothing, utensils, linen, and things like that. People have been coming forward with that. We're at the stage now where we are asking people but instead to focus more on making a financial contribution to the account at the Co-op Bank.
Yes.
It's in the name of the Chantemelle fire victims. You can do wire transfer, you can do direct transfer, right? We have a small committee headed by retired principal and community activist Miss Faith Phillip.
Yeah.
That is supervising the management of the funds. Two other members of that committee are Laura Solange Logie, a very well-respected member of the community, and a young Pastor Richard Alexander. Right. So I think these are three people that everybody in Chantemelle has confidence in. We have, as government, made available apartments at the government housing complex at the villa just outside Sauters for the 5 families. Up to this point, only 3 families have taken up the offer. The other 2 families have made temporary arrangements to stay with family and friends. I must point out that one of the families was living in a house owned by somebody else. Okay? And you know, it is really unfortunate that there are people who try to play politics try to make cheap political mileage out of human tragedy.
All right.
So here we have 5 houses destroyed. As government, we have given our commitment to assist the 5 homeowners.
Yes.
It so happened that one of the houses that burned down, as I said, the occupants, one of the owners of the premises.
Okay, so more or less renting from the individual.
So there are people, well, I don't know what the arrangement was,
All right.
but, we've committed to build back the 5 houses. And there are some people trying to create mischief by suggesting on social media and on radio talk show programs that we are not helping the victims of that particular household, which is totally far from the truth. We offered everybody accommodation at the villa at government expense, furnished, at least with a fridge and a stove.
Yes.
Okay? We have even provided furniture in one extreme case, and other people have been donating furniture. Yep. Whatever. Some people, they make monetary contributions and they say, we do not want it to go into the fund. We want to give a cash donation directly to the victims. That is handled by the committee headed by Ms. Phillip, distributed equally among the families and given to them.
All right.
The clothing, the food. I, for example, in the day after, contacted the water bottling company in Montreal, Glen at Spring Water, and they gave a very generous donation of bottled water. I personally went around and hand-delivered the water to every affected family. So the people who are going about trying to create that mischief, they ought to be ashamed of themselves, because this is not a partisan political matter. It's a humanitarian issue, and government is trying its best. Even as we speak, we have demolition taking place at the site. Okay. Previously, there were some community activists who did some of the lighter clearing, and now we have, with the assistance of the Ministry of Implementation and Transformation, Ministry of Social and Community Development, Ministry of Infrastructure Development, we will be doing the demolition and the clearance.
Okay.
And we'll be taking every measure to ensure that government plays a part in helping the families rebuild their homes and their lives.
What about the of course, the psychological, of course, help in terms of the families who work up? Okay, this is something that will help someone in a mental way also.
Yes.
Has that assistance been giving, or are they be getting that sort of mentoring?
Yes, so that has come, and it has come, thankfully, not only from government, but also from the local religious community. I know that 2 of the Pentecostal churches in Chantemelle, they came together to organize a counseling session for the victims, and the Ministry of Social Services has also put measures in place to provide the necessary psychosocial support to the affected families.
All right, great. And at this stage, folks, we're moving up into our final 15 minutes of the program this morning, and this way I'm going to open the lines for you, listeners and viewers of air. If you do have a question or two, and I beg of you, of course, to keep your question precise as the name of the program, keep it to the point, and let's, of course, the MP will be able to answer you folks. All right, so let's take our first caller. Caller, good morning, you're welcome.
Good morning. The question of adult literacy education, that should have never stopped in Grenada. And we don't need another country to tell us that should not, because what is happening there is that we are breeding delinquents in Grenada. The second point is the question of the Chelsea Flower Show. We're winning this thing almost every year, but we are not setting up an industry to export flowers. So we are not making any gains and benefit to develop our country. The third thing is that education. Now, you would have children passing exams, and they're very brilliant at that. Maybe the way the education system is designed, but when you put them in the workplace, they don't know what to do. They you know what I mean. They can't handle the workplace to execute what they learn in a practical way when they are employed. These things should be checked on to develop the country. That's what we need to be dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Response?
Okay,
LP?
good. Yes. So yes, caller, the first point about adult literacy, we are not waiting for another country to tell us what to do. I agree with you that this is a program that should never have stopped, because what I have noticed, having spent a number of years as a teacher and in my latter years as an active teacher at the Teacher Education Department of TAMCC. The question of functional illiteracy is a big one in Grenada. So what we are trying to achieve with that MOU is not for the Cubans to tell us what to do, but for us to share experiences and see how we can learn from each other to augment the efforts that we make in both countries. Cuba, as you know, has had a very successful adult literacy program going back over 6 years, where illiteracy is virtually zero in Cuba. Unfortunately, we still have that problem here, so we do not have to reinvent the wheel. The question of the Chelsea flower show and the cut flower industry, that is a very valid point you raised, caller, and this is something that we are working actively to address. So we want to take it beyond one or two producers. We want to take it out of being just a little niche thing for 1, 2, or 3 people and turn it into a genuine industry that can bring employment and foreign exchange to the country. So we are on board with your thinking. The question of the relevance of the curriculum to the requirements of the workplace, that too is a very valid point that you raised. And even as we speak, we are taking steps as a government to ensure that we align the curriculum to the needs of the workplace. As you know, with the fast-paced change of technology, we have to keep retraining and retooling in order not to get left behind. So you have made some very solid points.
All right, we do have another caller. Caller, good morning, you're welcome.
Oh, yes, good morning to you, JT, and good morning to your guest. I listened to this conversation there, and I want to know, when would we get to the point where we'll be able to train and develop our people to take these high-end jobs right here. But the situation, is the economy in a position to do that? And that's my worry. The economy are not in a position to do these things, and as a result of that, we are in the position that we're in here. Another area, sir, you mentioned functional literacy. Yes, I love that word. The question of fish farming. Is it possible for us to get involved in the fish farming rearing, where we can breed fish and put it back in the ocean? Yeah? And thirdly and lastly, the infrastructure. How soon would the government be in a position to upgrade the infrastructure as it relates to expanding the economy to create jobs, revenue? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. A response? Caller via WhatsApp. We're coming to you next.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't think that, regarding your first point about the ability of the economy to sustain or to promote the training of individuals to take on the high-end jobs and the more technical jobs, I think we have to look beyond the monetary cost, and more importantly ask, can we afford not to invest in that type of training? And that ties in again with a point made by the first caller. So I think we have to bite the bullet and find the means to ensure that we have a cadre of people trained in critical areas that are needed for the development of a modern economy in our country. Regarding fish farming, I think that the MOA that we signed with Cuba is an important first step. Regarding the feasibility of breeding fish and releasing into the ocean, I will leave that to people who are more technically qualified than I am to talk about. And in terms of infrastructure upgrade, we have a massive infrastructure deficit in Grenada. Many, if not most, of our bridges are in a very precarious condition. We have the question of the overhanging rocks, and the recent heavy rains in St. Patrick was a stark reminder of how vulnerable our infrastructure is to the forces of nature. So I know that the Ministry of Infrastructure Development is in the process of trying to procure equipment that would enable it to function more efficiently and more effectively. We have a deficit of engineers and other technical people at the ministry, and that has had a negative impact, a negative effect in terms of the ministry's ability to execute in a timely manner. Again, we are working to find short-term, but more importantly, medium and long-term solutions to deal with these deficits.
All right. Caller via WhatsApp, good morning and welcome, and thanks for your patience. Go right ahead, please.
Morning. Good morning. Just want to make a few points, The minister said Cuba is a highly illiterate country. What is literacy? Literacy, reading, writing. What is literacy? In terms of a Roman Catholic priest is highly educated, a Pentecostal priest is highly educated. The literate people, right? Study the Bible and all philosophy, theology, they're educated. Do they think the same? No. We Grenadians, I think we're suffering from a small island mentality. Young people want to be like Jamaicans. We want to speak Jamaican. Then you have a group of educated Grenadians with an ideology. We want to go back to Cuba. Cuba is a Spanish country that had its problem with the Americans for a long time. We in Grenada, we say we have a problem with the British. Cuba has more than 1 million of its people living in exile. Cubans are running everywhere. America sanctioned Cuba, which is, in my opinion, is wrong. But I personally, as a Grenadian, I live under Maurice Bishop revolution. I don't support this present regime going back close to Cuba. The Cubans have interest in Grenada, the Americans have interest in Grenada. We fought a battle in 1983. Big powers don't give up easy. It's like the French and the English used to occupy St. Kitts until eventually the English get it. One end was Thomas Warner. One end was...
Caller, I'm going to give you another 30 seconds, please, because due for time. Just say, make your points and wrap, please.
My point is, I think Grenada should find its own way of developing than going to Cuba or to America or to whatever country. We backpedaling. It's time Grenadian find its own way of developing itself than we going into hands of bigger powers. For example, in terms of learning languages, why is only Spanish? Why is the political future behind that?
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Let's get another. Before you go, let's just take another call, and then you'll probably get the response from both callers when you finish. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Telesford. Greetings and greetings to your guest, Mr. Andall. It is often said, where ignorance is bliss, it's folly to be wise. Sad situation, but is the God-blessed truth. Mr. Andall, I'm happy today that I can hear you reaffirming, reestablishing, reconfirming the relationship of Grenada with the Republic of Cuba. I'm happy. It's a pity we can't do anything for that country, but they have helped us, and with due respect, if we can have diplomatic relationship with other countries, criminal countries of the world, there is no reason why we can't have with Cuba. Long live the Cuban people, the memory of the revolution, the memory of their leaders. Thank God for the assistance they have given to this country, that in effect tested and in effect being tested and proven, and our country made leaps and bounds in the past through a relationship with Cuba.
Having said that, I say the following, Mr. Andall, in your relation, quickly, let me do it a little faster now because I have a problem talking. You mentioned when we were talking, or when you were talking, I must indeed say enlightening conversation. Yes, I must indeed say indeed an enlightening conversation with you and the host. You spoke of the diplomatic relationship, the appointment of the diplomatic representatives abroad. I want to tell you I'm in total disagreement when you say that you should not, or the government should not, blow the horn or expose the names of the people that we propose to have us representative in other countries. I think it is democratically more important so that the people of this country know who we're putting out there to represent us, and that they too should have part and parcel in playing whether or not these people are qualified to do representation of Grenada outside. Because we have representatives in this country, or we have had, who have made this country shame with their ignorance and their stupidity. And so if the people can make their input, it will be certainly better, so that when they get out there, they will do a job in the interest of the people. Finally, these are questions to you, Mr. Andall. Wow. Listen quickly. Question 1. Does Grenada have a formal registry and what's the word again, boy? Storage. There is a word that just slipped me there now. Repository is the word. For gifts made by foreign leaders to our leaders over the years. And can you make a statement on that? Who is responsible for controlling said registry and repository? And finally, does Grenada have diplomatic and trade relationship with the Zionist criminal state of Israel? Finally, do we propose to continue these relationships or relations with the state of Israel in light of what is happening outside in the abusive actions against the Palestinian people? For what it's worth, thank you very much and have a nice day. Will you?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Of course, Mr. Minister.
Thank you, Citizen Rollo. So let me go back to the previous caller. I think the caller understands what literacy is. Literacy is simply the ability to read and write. Education is a different story. In terms of relations with Cuba, we've had relations with Cuba under all administrations, be it TNP, NNP, or NDC. And why Spanish? Spanish is a language most widely spoken in our region. Cuba alone, or the Dominican Republic alone, either of them has a bigger population than the rest of CARICOM put together, excluding Haiti, the English-speaking Caribbean. So it makes more sense to be able to understand the language of your neighbors. We also teach French. I know that there is a Confucius Institute at Time 60 teaching Spanish. And what we should aim to do is to encourage the use of more languages rather than try to restrict them. In terms of the first point that Citizen Rollo made, it is not a question of trying to keep secret who your diplomatic appointees are, but simply respecting the country to whom you are intending to post the diplomat by not jumping the gun. Because the country, we have had instances in the past where you have proposed somebody and the country has rejected that proposal. So it is a way of not putting pressure on the host country by making what I'd call premature public announcements. That is all. In terms of do we have a formal gift registry, there's a process. I think that the Integrity in Public Life Commission is the entity responsible for that. If there is another, well, I am open to learning about it, where senior government officials are obliged to declare gifts above a certain monetary value to the commission. Okay? I know in my case, for example, that I once received a gift. I turned it over to the Integrity Commission, and when they did the tests and the checks, they recognized that it was basically a token of small monetary value. They said, okay, it's fine, and they returned it to me. Relationships with Israel, yes, we do have formal diplomatic relations with Israel. But as a member of CARICOM and also on our own accord, we have expressed our strong opposition to the way in which the Palestinian population has been subjected to, frankly, inhumane treatment by the Israeli forces. We have condemned the denial of food, electricity, water, and medical supplies to a civilian population. And we will continue to speak out against injustice, regardless of who the perpetrator or the victim is. One of the problems of the international order, Citizen Rollo, is a level of double standards and hypocrisy, where wrong and right are determined not by objective measures, but on the basis of whose friend or enemy is doing it. And until and unless we get rid of that level of hypocrisy and double standards, we are going to continue to be faced with these types of problems that we are seeing there. We work within the CARICOM diplomatic framework, and although we have the independence to take unilateral action as we see fit in our national interest, we try as much as possible to work within that multilateral framework regarding diplomatic relations. Of course, as I say, without prejudice to our being able to do what is in our national interest.
All right. We do have a final caller. Let's entertain our final caller for the morning, and then we take a wrap for today's program. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Yes, good morning to you, goodly gentlemen. I would like to ask if any survey was recently done to establish our level of illiteracy or literacy in order to decide the need for the Yes, I Can program. That's all.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
Okay, I think that probably the Ministry of Education will be in a better position than I am to answer the question regarding a survey. But from observation and from anecdotal observations, I think we can safely say that we have a significant number of our people who are unable to do functional things. For example, fill out an application form, write a job letter, prepare a CV. People in the construction industry not being able to do a simple estimate to build a rabbit hutch or a fowl coop, for example. So there is indeed, with or without a survey, I agree with you that a survey would put us in a better position, since we will now have access to hard empirical data that will guide the decision-making process. But I think that we can begin to address the problem even as we undertake the survey or whatever other measure that we need to ascertain the depth of the problem.
All right. Andall, I want to ask you any closing comments before we take a wrap for today's program?
Yes, so I wish to thank the GBN for affording me this opportunity to address the matters that I have dealt with this morning. I wish to, on behalf of the Shantimel fire victims and the entire community of Shantimel, thank all of the individual citizens and the corporate bodies that have stepped forward to assist them. And we urge you to keep giving. Remember, it's a large number of people that we're dealing with, 5 houses, and no amount is too small or too big. A number of people have stepped in with cash and in-kind donation. In fact, even this morning I had a conversation with a business person who has pledged to assist with roofing materials and so on. And so we wish to thank and commend all those of you who have stepped forward and to continue to rally around the Shantimel fire victims. I also understand that there were 2 fires recently.
Yes.
One in the St. George Northwest area, and another in or near Springs, somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there, yes.
Yeah, we have those people in our thoughts and prayers too, and we also urge you to give of your material goods and of your monies to help restore the lives of those families who have been displaced. And remember, there are things that can be replaced, but there are things that, once gone, they're lost.
All right.
So let us rally with one another, support our citizens, and work together to build a Grenada that all of us will be proud of and happy to live in.
All right. MB, I want to thank you for being on the program this morning. Healthy discussion as usual. And of course, best wishes for the best of the day. It goes out to you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
JT.
Hey, folks, as we take a wrap for this edition of To The Point, join us again tomorrow once the Almighty permits. Have yourself a great day, folks, and goodbye.